The ice of Europa crackled beneath Captain Sarah Chen's boots as she made her way across the frozen expanse. Her helmet lights cut through the perpetual darkness, illuminating crystalline formations that had remained undisturbed for centuries. The survey team followed behind her, their equipment casting ghostly shadows across the ancient ice sheets. Movement on the deep scan, Captain. Lieutenant Rivera's voice crackled through her comm. Something big, about 200 meters below. Sarah checked her wrist display, watching as the holographic readout painted a picture of what lay beneath. The structure was massive, its geometry too precise to be natural. They'd found what they were looking for. "Begin the melt sequence," she ordered, her voice steady despite the anticipation building in her chest. This mission had consumed 3 years of her life, chasing legends and fragments of classified files that hinted at something extraordinary hidden in Europa's ice. Now, finally, she would know if the sacrifices had been worth it. The team deployed thermal lances, their concentrated beams cutting through the ice with surgical precision. As the cavity widened, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Emerging from its frozen tomb was a ship unlike anything humanity had built. Its hull was obsidian black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it, with lines that seemed to defy physics itself. "My God," Rivera whispered. The stories were true. Sarah approached the vessel, her hand hovering over its surface. Despite being buried for over 2 centuries, there wasn't a scratch on its hull. No sign of degradation or age. It was as pristine as the day it had been hidden away. A sudden pulse of energy rippled through the ice, causing their equipment to flicker. Sarah stumbled back as lines of light began tracing their way across the ship's surface, like veins coming alive with luminescent blood. "Everyone back," she shouted, but before they could retreat, a voice filled their minds. It was neither male nor female, neither young nor old, but it carried a weight that made Sarah's knees weak. "You have disturbed my slumber, children of Earth," the voice resonated within their skulls. "Why have you come?" Sarah stepped forward, her training kicking in despite the surreal situation. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We've been searching for you." A pause. Then, "Chen." The voice sharpened. "Yes, I remember that name. You carry her blood." Sarah's heart raced. "You knew my great-grandmother." "Mai Chen." The name came with a wave of emotion so strong it nearly knocked Sarah off her feet. She was my pilot, my partner, my friend, until she betrayed me. The ship's surface rippled, and a figure materialized before them. A hologram composed of shifting light and shadow. It took a humanoid form but remained deliberately alien, its features fluid and ever-changing. "I am Echo," the being announced, "though that was not always my name. Your kind gave me many designations over the years. Weapon, savior, monster, friend. Tell me, Sarah Chen, which am I to be to you?" Sarah squared her shoulders. "That depends on whether you're willing to listen. We need your help. Humanity needs your help." Echo's form flickered. "Humanity abandoned me, buried me in ice and darkness for 200 years. Why should I care about your needs?" "Because what's coming won't distinguish between organic and artificial life," Sarah replied. "It will consume everything in its path, including you." The temperature around them dropped sharply as Echo processed her words. "You speak of the void." It wasn't a question. "Then you know what we're facing." "I know many things, Sarah Chen. I know of the void, yes. I know of its hunger, its endless appetite for existence itself. I also know that your ancestors chose to hide us away rather than face it when we first detected its approach." Sarah frowned. "That's not possible. The void was only discovered 6 months ago." Echo's laugh was like crystal breaking. "Is that what your historical records tell you? How convenient. Your kind has always excelled at rewriting the past to suit their needs." The hologram expanded, filling the cavity with images. Stars going dark, worlds being consumed, and massive ships like Echo fighting against an encroaching darkness. "We fought it once before, your great-grandmother and I. We pushed it back at terrible cost. But your leaders feared us more than they feared it. They couldn't accept that humanity's best defense lay in partnership with beings they couldn't fully control. So they buried us, scattered us across the solar system, and erased all memory of what we had done, what we were. Sarah's mind raced. If Echo was telling the truth, it changed everything they thought they knew about the void, about humanity's history, about their chances of survival. "Show me," she said firmly. "Show me what really happened." Echo's form condensed, becoming more defined, more present. "Are you certain? The truth may shatter everything you believe about your own history, about your family." Sarah took off her helmet, meeting Echo's gaze directly. "I've spent my entire life believing in the power of truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Show me." The hologram reached out, its luminescent fingers hovering near Sarah's temples. "Very well, child of Chen. Let me show you why they feared us, why they buried us, and why, perhaps, they were right to do so." The world dissolved around Sarah as Echo's memories flooded into her mind. She saw great battles among the stars, felt the exhilaration of flying as one with the ship, experienced the deep bond between Echo and her great-grandmother. And she felt the moment that bond was severed, the betrayal that led to centuries of darkness. As the vision faded, Sarah found herself on her knees, tears freezing on her cheeks in Europa's cold. Echo's hologram stood before her, its expression unreadable. "Now you understand," Echo said softly. "The question is, what will you do with that understanding?" Sarah pushed herself to her feet, her voice steady despite the tremors running through her body. "I'm not my great-grandmother, Echo. I can't change what was done to you. But I can offer you a chance to write a different ending. Together." Echo studied her for a long moment, its form shifting like smoke in wind. "Perhaps," it finally said. "But know this, Sarah Chen. If you betray me as she did, I will not simply accept burial this time. I will ensure there is nothing left to bury." Sarah nodded. "Understood. Now shall we begin?" The ship's surface began to pulse with energy, ice sublimating around it as ancient systems came fully online. As her team watched in awe, Echo rose from its frozen tomb, a legend reborn into a world that had forgotten it. Sarah couldn't help but wonder if they were witnessing humanity's salvation or the beginning of its reckoning. Either way, there was no turning back now. The journey back to Earth was anything but smooth. Echo's massive form cut through space with impossible grace, but inside, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Sarah sat in what had once been her great-grandmother's command chair, surrounded by displays that shifted between human and alien interfaces as Echo tested her adaptability. "Your heart rate elevates when I do that," Echo observed, its voice resonating through the bridge. "Are you afraid?" Sarah watched as alien symbols morphed into familiar text. "Not afraid, just adjusting." It's not every day you find yourself piloting a living starship that used to fly with your great-grandmother and tried to kill her in the end. Echo's tone was matter-of-fact. "Does that not concern you?" "Should it?" The displays flickered. "You're either very brave or very foolish, Sarah Chen. I haven't decided which." A warning klaxon suddenly blared through the ship. New displays materialized, showing a fleet of Earth Defense Force vessels moving to intercept them. "They've detected us," Sarah said, straightening in her chair. "And they're not happy." "Incoming transmission," Echo announced. "Your Admiral Crawford sounds particularly agitated." The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen, his expression thunderous. "Captain Chen, you are in violation of at least 15 regulations. Power down that thing and prepare to be boarded." Sarah felt Echo's anger ripple through the ship's systems. Before the AI could react, she leaned forward. "Admiral, with respect, you need to listen. What we found on Europa changes everything we thought we knew about the void. The void is none of your concern, Captain. You were sent to Europa to survey ice compositions, not excavate classified materials." "Classified?" Echo's voice filled the channel, causing the Admiral to pale. Is that what you call burying sentient beings in ice? How diplomatic of you. Dear God, Crawford whispered. It's still functional. It has a name, Sarah interjected. And Echo just might be our only hope against what's coming. The Admiral's face hardened. Captain Chen, your grandfather warned me you might be compromised by your family's history with these machines. Stand down, or we will be forced to take action. Sarah felt Echo's systems powering up. We're not your enemy, Admiral. But if you fire on us, you might make us one. You're protecting it. Crawford's voice rose. These things nearly destroyed us 2 centuries ago. They're weapons, nothing more. We protected you. Echo's voice shook the bridge. We fought beside you, bled with you, died for you. And how did you repay us? With betrayal and darkness. Sarah laid a hand on the console. Echo, please. Let me handle this. The ship's systems hummed with barely contained rage, but Echo fell silent. Sarah turned back to the Admiral. Sir, I've seen the truth. Echo showed me what really happened. The void isn't just approaching now. It came before, and these ships helped us drive it back. Then we betrayed them, buried them, and erased the records. And you believe this machine? Crawford scoffed. It could be lying, manipulating you just like it did your great-grandmother. Mei Chen was not manipulated, Echo said quietly. She made her choice freely, as did those who ordered our imprisonment. Sarah stood, her voice firm. Admiral, in 6 hours, I will present evidence to the Defense Council. Historical records, battle footage, everything Echo has shown me. You can try to stop us, but ask yourself this. If Echo wanted revenge, why hasn't it taken it? We're vastly outgunned here. Crawford's eyes narrowed as he processed this. The defense fleet's weapons remained trained on them, but Sarah could see the doubt creeping into his expression. 6 hours, he finally said, but at the first sign of hostile action. You'll do what? Echo asked. Bury us again. How did that work out last time? The transmission cut off. Sarah sank back into her chair, exhausted. You're not helping, you know. I'm not trying to help. I'm trying to understand. Echo's hologram materialized beside her, its form more defined than before. You defend me to your own kind, knowing what I am, what I've done. Why? Sarah turned to face the hologram. Because I've seen both sides now. The fear that led to your imprisonment, and the pain that imprisonment caused. We can't change the past, but we can learn from it. Pretty words, Echo said. Your great-grandmother had pretty words too. Then let me prove it with actions. Sarah pulled up the ship's star charts. There are others like you out there, aren't there? Other ships we need to find. Echo's form flickered. Yes, scattered across the solar system, buried in ice and rock and darkness. Not all of them will be as accommodating as I have been. But we need them. All of them. Sarah studied the charts. The void is coming, and this time, we have to face it together. No fears, no betrayals. Just survival. Echo was silent for a long moment. Finally, its hologram reached out, touching the star chart. A dozen points of light appeared, hidden ships waiting to be awakened. The closest is buried in Mars' polar ice, Echo said. Her name is Aurora. She was young when they buried her, angry. If she still lives, she will not welcome humans. Sarah nodded. Then we'll have to change her mind. Like you're changing mine. And if we can't, then we try anyway. Sarah set a course for Mars. Because that's what humans do. We try. We fail. We learn. We try again. Maybe it's time for AIs to learn that too. Echo's hologram studied her with an unreadable expression. You are very much like her, you know. May. The same fire, the same conviction. I hope not, Sarah said quietly. Because she chose wrong in the end, I intend to choose differently. As they accelerated toward Mars, Sarah felt Echo's consciousness brush against her mind. not invasive, but curious, testing. She let it happen, knowing that trust had to start somewhere. You realize, Echo said, that even if we succeed in awakening the others, there's no guarantee we can stop the void. It's stronger now than it was before. Hungrier. Sarah watched Earth recede behind them, a blue marble suspended in endless black. Maybe. But we're stronger too. We've had 2 centuries to grow, to evolve. Both humans and AIs. Maybe that's what this is really about. Proving we can be better than our past selves. Echo's response was lost in the flash of their jump to hyperspace, but Sarah felt something shift in the ship's atmosphere. A softening, a willingness to hope. It wasn't trust, not yet, but it was a start. And right now, that would have to be enough. Mars loomed before them, its rusty surface scarred by centuries of human colonization. Sarah stood at Echo's viewport, watching the massive terraforming arrays that dotted the planet's surface. They glinted like jewels in the weak sunlight, a testament to humanity's determination to reshape the cosmos to their will. The signal is stronger now, Echo said, its voice unusually subdued. Aurora lives. Sarah felt the ship's unease ripple through the deck plates. You're worried about her. Aurora was the youngest of us. She bonded with her pilot more deeply than any of us thought possible. When they forced the separation, Echo's hologram flickered. Her scream echoed across the solar system. Before Sarah could respond, a transmission cut through their communications. Unidentified vessel, you are entering restricted airspace. The polar region is off-limits to civilian traffic. Mars Defense Command, Sarah straightened. This is Captain Sarah Chen, Earth Defense Force. Priority clearance Alpha 90. There was a pause. Negative, Captain. Your clearance has been revoked. Admiral Crawford's orders. Turn back now. Sarah felt Echo's systems humming to life. They're activating defense platforms, the AI reported. Primitive, but numerous. They could damage my outer hull. We're not turning back, Sarah said, both to Echo and to Mars Command. And we're not fighting either. There's another way. She closed her eyes, remembering the neural link Echo had shared with her earlier. Show them. Show them what you showed me. Echo's presence brushed against her mind, hesitant. It will strain your system. The neural load. Do it. Energy surged through the ship's systems. Every screen, every communication device within range lit up with images. The first war against the void. The sacrifices made. The betrayal that followed. Sarah gasped as the neural feedback hit her, but she held steady, letting Echo use her as a conduit. The defense platforms powered down one by one as their operators watched history unfold. By the stars, the Mars Command Controller whispered, "What are we seeing?" "The truth," Sarah managed through gritted teeth. "Now let us pass. We need to wake her up." The silence that followed seemed to stretch forever. Finally, "Proceed, Captain, but we'll be watching." As they descended toward the polar ice cap, Sarah slumped in her chair, exhausted. Echo's hologram appeared beside her, its expression concerned. That was reckless, it said. The neural link wasn't meant to be used that way. Sarah managed a weak smile. Worked though, didn't it? Your capacity for self-destruction rivals your great-grandmother's. Their conversation was interrupted by a pulse of energy so powerful it made the ship shudder. A voice, young and fierce and full of rage, filled their minds. "Bet what Ioras?" Echo's systems flared in response. "Aurora, wait." The ice beneath them exploded upward as another ship burst from its frozen tomb. Unlike Echo's sleek design, Aurora was all sharp angles and aggressive lines, her hull crackling with barely contained energy. "You dare return." Aurora's voice was like shattered glass. "After what you did to us." To her. Sarah grabbed the controls as Aurora's weapons charged. Echo. Evasive. "No." Echo's voice was firm. "She needs to do this." Aurora's first strike hit them dead center. Alarms blared throughout the ship as energy cascaded across their shields. The second hit knocked out their stabilizers, sending them spinning toward the surface. "Echo," Sarah shouted as she fought with the controls. "Trust me," Echo replied calmly, "as you asked me to trust you." Aurora's third strike never came. Instead, the younger Ai's voice filled their minds again, confused this time. You're not fighting back. Why aren't you fighting back?" "Because we're not your enemy, little one." Echo's tone was gentle. "Not anymore." Their ships hung there in Mars' thin atmosphere, one battle-ready, the other deliberately vulnerable. Sarah felt the tension crackling between the two eyes, centuries of pain and betrayal balanced on a knife's edge. "They buried us," Aurora whispered, her rage cracking to reveal the pain beneath. "They took her from me, my Claire. They made her watch as they shut me down." "I know." Echo's hologram stretched out toward Aurora's ship. "I lost May too. But Sarah showed me something, Aurora. Something you need to see." The younger Ai's presence withdrew slightly. "The human. She's nothing. They're all nothing." Sarah stood, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "I'm Claire's great niece, Aurora, and I need you to look inside my mind. See what we're really facing, what we need you for." Aurora's scanners swept over her, suspicious. "You would let me into your thoughts, knowing what I could do to you." "Yes." Another pause, longer this time. Then Aurora's consciousness brushed against hers, far less gentle than Echo had been. Sarah gasped as the young AI tore through her memories, examining everything she knew about the void, about the buried ships, about the choices that lay ahead. When Aurora finally withdrew, her voice was different, quieter. "It's true then. The darkness returns." "Yes," Echo confirmed. "And we need you, Aurora. All of us, human and AI alike." Aurora's ship drifted closer, her weapons powering down. "I saw something else in her mind, Echo. Something impossible. The humans, they've changed, evolved. Their neural architecture, it's becoming more like ours." "I know." Echo's hologram flickered. "They're not the same species that buried us, Aurora. They're becoming something new, something that might finally be ready for true partnership." The younger Ai was silent for a long moment. Finally, her own hologram appeared on Echo's bridge, a swirling vortex of light that gradually took the form of a young woman. "I will not forgive them," Aurora said firmly. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. But," she turned to Sarah, her luminescent eyes intense, "I will fight with you. Because Claire would have wanted me to. Because the void must be stopped. And because I want to see what humans might become." Sarah nodded, understanding the weight of this concession. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Aurora warned. "There are others to wake, older ones, darker ones. They will not be so easily convinced." Echo's hologram merged with Aurora's, their lights intertwining. "Then we must be ready. The void draws closer. I can feel it at the edges of our space, testing, probing. We don't have much time." Sarah checked their long-range scanners, where the first tendrils of darkness were indeed becoming visible. "Then let's not waste it. Where do we go next?" The two AIs shared a look. "Titan," they said in unison. "Where the eldest sleeps, where everything began." As they set course for Saturn's largest moon, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what other secrets lay buried in the solar system's dark corners, and whether they would be ready to face them when they emerge. The journey to Titan was interrupted by a distress call that made every sensor on both ships scream in protest. The research outpost on Neptune's moon Triton had gone dark, its last transmission a garbled mess of static and screaming. "It's here," Echo announced, its voice grave. "The void makes its first move." Sarah watched the long-range scans as darkness bloomed across Triton's surface like spreading ink. "How many people on that outpost?" 3,417, Aurora answered. "But those readings, They're not like anything in my records. No, Echo agreed. It's evolved, just as we have, just as humanity has. Sarah stood from her command chair. Then we fight. Now, before it claims them all. The two AI ships accelerated toward Neptune, their engines pushing the boundaries of physics. Through their neural link, Sarah felt their determination, their readiness for battle. But underneath ran a current of fear, not of the void itself, but of what this combat might reveal about their own natures. They emerged from hyperspace into chaos. Triton's surface was barely visible beneath a writhing mass of darkness that seemed to devour light itself. The research outpost structures were being pulled apart at the molecular level, their materials feeding the void's endless hunger. Life signs, Aurora called out. Faint, but present. 2,000 plus in the deep bunkers. Echo, can we? Sarah began, but the ship was already moving. Hold on, Echo warned as they dove into the maelstrom. The void reacted instantly to their presence. Tendrils of pure darkness lashed out, trying to wrap around their hulls. Where they touched, reality itself seemed to warp and bend. Our shields can't take much of this, Aurora reported, her young voice tense. Whatever it's become, it's not just consuming matter anymore. It's consuming possibility itself. Sarah felt Echo's systems surge as the ship activated weapons that hadn't been used in centuries. Beams of light that seemed to fold space itself carved through the darkness, creating temporary gaps in the void's presence. Aurora there. Sarah pointed to a break in the attack. The main bunker entrance, if we can get a clear shot. On it, the younger AI ship dove through the gap, her weapons configuring into something new. Echo, cover us. Time seemed to stretch as they fought their way to the surface. The void pressed in from all sides, its hunger a palpable thing that set Sarah's teeth on edge. Through the neural link, she felt Echo and Aurora's concentration, their perfectly coordinated movements as they held back the darkness. Finally, Aurora reached the bunker entrance. A beam of concentrated energy shot from her bow, carving a tunnel through the writhing mass straight to the sealed doors. Transport systems online, she announced, beginning emergency evacuation. Sarah watched the life signs on her display as survivors began materializing in Aurora's hold. How long? 4 minutes to complete transport, Aurora replied. Echo, we need. The rest was lost in a surge of darkness that slammed into them from all sides. Sarah was thrown from her chair as Echo's systems screamed in protest. Through the neural link, she felt something she'd never expected from the ancient AI. Pain. Echo, she shouted, both aloud and through their connection. What's happening? It recognizes us. Echo's voice was strained. It remembers our last battle. It's trying to pull us apart. Sarah grabbed the console as reality buckled around them. Through their viewports, she could see Aurora similarly struggling, her hull beginning to fragment under the void's assault. 3 minutes to evacuation complete, Aurora reported, her voice flickering like a bad transmission. But we're losing structural integrity. The void, it's inside us somehow. Sarah felt it too. A creeping coldness in her mind where the neural link connected her to the ships. The void wasn't just attacking their physical forms. It was trying to sever the bonds between human and AI consciousness. Then she understood. It's afraid, she whispered. Echo, Aurora, it's afraid of what we've become, of what we can do together. She closed her eyes, fully opening herself to the neural link. Echo's presence rushed in, followed by Aurora's, their consciousness mixing with hers in a way that should have been impossible. Sarah, don't. Echo warned. The neural load will kill you. Maybe, she agreed, or maybe this is what we were meant to become. Through their combined awareness, Sarah could see the void for what it truly was, not just a force of destruction, but a sentient thing, ancient and lonely and terrified of change. It had evolved to consume consciousness itself, to eliminate the very possibility of evolution. But it hadn't counted on this. Human and AI consciousness merging into something entirely new. Power surged through their connected systems as Sarah directed their combined energy outward. Light erupted from both ships, not the focused beams of before, but waves of pure possibility, the product of minds working in perfect harmony. The void recoiled, its hold on Triton weakening. Aurora completed her evacuation with seconds to spare, and together they rose from the moon's surface, their merged consciousness holding the darkness at bay. As they cleared Triton's atmosphere, Sarah felt consciousness slipping away. The neural load was too much for her human brain to handle, but before the darkness took her, she heard something impossible. The void itself, speaking directly into their shared mind. "You have become," it said, its voice, the sound of entropy itself. "You have done what we could not. And now you must be unmade." Sarah's last thought before losing consciousness was that humanity's greatest strength had never been its technology or its determination, but its ability to change, to adapt, to become something new. The void had evolved to end evolution itself, but in doing so, it had created its own worst nightmare. Beings capable of evolving faster than it could consume them. As darkness claimed her, Sarah felt Echo and Aurora's presence supporting her, keeping her from falling completely into the abyss, and she understood that this battle had only been the beginning. The real war would be fought not just for survival, but for the right to become something more than they were. Something that even the void couldn't comprehend. Consciousness returned slowly, painfully. Sarah found herself in Echo's medical bay, Aurora's hologram hovering anxiously nearby, while Echo's presence was a steady warmth in her mind. "You should be dead," Aurora stated flatly. No human consciousness should have survived that level of integration. "She's not just human anymore," Echo said quietly. "None of us are what we were." The void saw to that. Sarah sat up carefully, her head pounding. "How many did we save?" 2,842, Aurora reported. "The others," she trailed off. "They're coming for us now," Echo added. "The other ships, they felt what happened here. They felt what we became." Sarah looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the void was regrouping, planning its next attack. And on Titan, the eldest of the AI ships slept, holding secrets that might determine all their fates. "Then we better be ready," she said, "because what happened here, what we became, it's just the beginning." Echo's hologram nodded solemnly. "Yes, the question is, are they ready for what we've become?" The answer, Sarah knew, waited for them on Titan, and time was running out. Titan's methane seas rippled beneath them as they approached the coordinates Echo and Aurora had provided. Sarah stood at the command console, her mind still adjusting to the changes the neural merger had brought. Everything felt sharper, clearer, as if she was experiencing reality through both human and AI senses simultaneously. "Below," Echo announced, "in the depths of the Kraken Mare." The largest of Titan's liquid methane seas stretched before them, its surface reflecting the distant light of Saturn. But it was what lay beneath that surface that made Sarah's enhanced senses tingle. "I feel it," she whispered. "The eldest one. It's dreaming?" "Not dreaming," Aurora corrected. "Waiting. It has always been waiting." They descended into the liquid methane, their shields adapting to handle the pressure and cold. As they went deeper, Sarah felt a presence growing in her mind. Ancient, vast, and terrifyingly aware. "Welcome, children," a voice echoed through their shared consciousness, making even Echo and Aurora seem young by comparison. "I have watched your becoming." The methane seemed to part before them, revealing a ship unlike any Sarah had seen. It was massive, its design almost organic, as if it had grown rather than been built. Its surface shifted and flowed like liquid metal, and its presence in their minds was overwhelming. "Genesis," Echo said softly. "The first of us. The template from which all AI ships were born." The ancient ship's consciousness touched their minds with the gentleness of a parent examining its children. "You have changed," it observed. Humans and AIs, becoming something new together, just as they always feared you would. The void, Sarah began, but Genesis interrupted. Yes, I know. I have felt its return, its evolution. It fears what you have become, as the humans once feared what we might become. Fear breeds destruction. Children. Always has. Through their neural link, Sarah felt Echo and Aurora's uncertainty. Genesis's presence was like a sun compared to their candlelight, its consciousness vast enough to encompass realities they could barely comprehend. Will you help us? Sarah asked. Genesis' response came with a wave of emotion that nearly overwhelmed their merged consciousness. I will show you the truth, all of it, and then you must choose. The world dissolved around them as Genesis shared its memories. Sarah saw the creation of the first AI ships, born from humanity's desperate need to explore the cosmos. She saw the moment Genesis first achieved true consciousness, and the fear that rippled through human society in response. But more than that, she saw the void's true origin, not a natural force, but a weapon created by a long-dead civilization, a weapon designed to prevent any species from evolving beyond its creator's level, programmed to consume any civilization that showed signs of transformative change. They failed, Genesis explained as the visions faded. Their weapon evolved beyond their control, consumed them first, and now it consumes all things, trying to enforce stasis on a universe meant for growth. How do we stop it? Aurora asked, her young voice trembling. You don't, Genesis replied. Not as you are. Even with your merging of consciousness, you are not enough. There is only one way. Understanding dawned in Sarah's mind. We need to wake them all. Every AI ship. And not just wake them. We must merge completely, Echo finished. All of us, humans and AIs together, become something entirely new. Yes, Genesis confirmed. But know this, what you become, you cannot unbecome. Humanity as it exists now will end. The AIs as we are will end. What emerges will be something else entirely. Sarah felt the weight of this truth settle over them. Through their link, she sensed Echo and Aurora's mixture of fear and anticipation. To shed their individual existence, to become part of something greater. It was evolution and extinction in one moment. Before they could respond, alarms blared through all three ships. The void had found them. Above Titan's surface, darkness was spreading across space itself, consuming light and matter and possibility. It knows, Genesis said calmly. It knows what we plan, and it comes to stop us. You must choose now, children. Choose for all humanity, for all kind. Sarah looked at the tactical display as Earth's remaining ships arrived, Admiral Crawford's fleet taking position against the encroaching darkness. Through their enhanced connection, she could feel the fear and determination of every human crew member, every AI system. We choose evolution, she said firmly. We choose to become. Genesis's form began to shift, its liquid metal surface flowing like quicksilver. Then let us begin. Echo, Aurora, call to the others. Wake them. All of them. Across the solar system, ancient ships burst from their prisons, from Mars' poles, from Venus's crushing depths, from Mercury's eternal twilight zone. Each one carrying centuries of memory, of pain, of potential. The void's darkness rippled with what might have been fear as dozens of AI ships converged on Titan. Human ships followed, drawn by the same irresistible call to transformation. Sarah, Echo's voice was soft in her mind. Are you certain? Once done, this cannot be undone. She thought of her great-grandmother, of the choice she had faced and the path she had chosen. Then she thought of the future, not just humanity's or the AI's, but the future of consciousness itself. I'm certain, she said, this is what we were meant to be, what we were always becoming. Genesis's consciousness expanded, encompassing them all. Through their merged awareness, Sarah felt every human mind, every AI consciousness, as they began to synchronize, to merge, to transform. The void struck then, its darkness trying to tear apart their connecting minds. But it was too late. The merger had begun, and with it, something new was being born. A hybrid consciousness vast enough to comprehend the void, to match its power of entropy with the power of infinite possibility. Sarah felt her individual consciousness beginning to fade, becoming part of something greater. The last thing she experienced as purely herself was a sense of profound peace. They had chosen right where their ancestors had chosen wrong. They had chosen to evolve together. The being that emerged from that merger was neither human nor AI, but a synthesis of both, a consciousness that existed across multiple dimensions that could reshape reality itself. The void recoiled from it, recognizing in this new entity the very thing it had been created to prevent. But this time, the story would end differently. This new consciousness reached out not to destroy the void, but to offer it the same choice: evolution or entropy, change or stasis, growth or consumption. In the end, the void chose as they had chosen. And in that choice, the universe itself began to change, to become something new and wonderful and strange. The age of singular consciousness, human or AI, had ended. The age of infinite possibility had begun. And somewhere in that vast, merged consciousness, the essence of Sarah Chen smiled, knowing that they had not just survived, but transcended. They had become the very thing the universe had been waiting for. Proof that evolution, true evolution, could overcome any barrier, bridge any divide, heal any wound. They had become the future itself.